today, and I am filling in for your regular host, Mr. David Williams, and co-host Jackie Gardner. And so we are so delighted that all of you are tuning in for this dynamic broadcast that we're going to have in studios today. And so with us, we have, as our special guest for today, we have none other than Inspector Kendra Wallace Wims, and she is going to share with us about the new position that she has been given and that she's in charge of on the Royal Bahamas Police Force, but also some of the work that she has been doing in the community as it relates to women. So today's show is all about women's empowerment. And then we also have someone who is no stranger to the Bahamas for her work, not just with women, but her work also with youth. We have Podesta, who is the president of Women United. And so, ladies, welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so great having you here. And so before we go on any further, I know that David Williams was supposed to be chiming in. He actually just called me a few minutes ago, so I'm trying to see if he is on. And he wanted to start with anything before we proceed. Okay, so I don't see anything as yet. Dave was actually traveling today, and so he just has to get situated, and then he will chime in as soon as he is able. And so, like we said, today's show is all about women's empowerment. As we are preparing to get back in terms of to the swing of things in terms of school and school opening, it is very important because we know that over 70% of our births are to single parents. And so women share the majority of the load in terms of raising children in our nation. And oftentimes the weight of caring for a family, having to provide for that family, it's a two-person job, but oftentimes single-handedly, mothers find themselves having to carry that out. And there's just a whole lot of challenges that in itself brings. And so we've got in our country today, a lot of issues in terms of gender equality as well as gender-based violence. And we want our guest speakers for their various platforms, for the work that they have been doing, for the work that they are getting prepared to do, for them to be able to share with us. We're going to give them the floor, and we're going to start off with Inspector Kendra Wims, and we're going to give her the floor, allowing her to introduce herself, her platform, and what she's doing, share with us some of what she's looking to see happen in our communities as it relates to women.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. Good afternoon, Kendra. I am so delighted to be here today. Like you had introduced me, I am Kendra Wims, Inspector of Police. I was just recently transferred. Actually, I'm the supervisor for the Domestic Violence Unit Task Force, which is presently located at police headquarters at this time. Prior to me being posted in this unique and very much needed area, I was the family liaison officer attached to the criminal investigation department, where I was the family liaison officer for about 17 years in addition to me being an investigator. Now, prior to becoming a police, Kendra, I was a social worker, probation officer, where I worked with the Department of Social Services for about 5 years, give or take 6 years, where I worked in the aftercare unit, and I assisted children from between the age of 10 to 16 years of old who was transferred or who was actually sentenced to the Wilbur Pratt Center for Girls and the Simpson Penn Center for Boys. And now I am a police officer. Now, with all of that being said, one thing I always knew about myself is that I am a person who likes to share, and not only share, to give back to my community. And this is very important, I found in my career. I've seen many cases. I've had many cases that I not only investigated, but also assisted in terms of families who have lost their loved ones in terms of the grief aspect. So I did a lot of counseling throughout the years. A few years ago, I started my own organization, which is called It's All Love Organization. And what I do, I mentor girls females between the age of 10 years old up to 21. And I also provide counseling for women who are in need of counseling for various reasons, whether it be domestic, whether it be in terms of relationship, whether they need to transition from one area to the next, whether they need just support, just a lending ear that most women needs in society today. You said something very unique when you had mentioned women makes up most of the household, which is true. That has been that way for years, for many, many years. And unfortunately, a home would actually function better with actually two partners in the home, a father and a mother, or even a guardian, or even persons who would love or provide love and protection in the home. But now you find, because of that, you find that the load falls on a woman to be woman and man, and able to take care of the home, pay the bills, make sure the children are clothed, just the basic needs, which is very important as well. So there's a breakdown in society. And a lot of people in the nation will look at, the murders rate, the crime rate is high. What's going to happen next? But it leads us back to the home structure. It actually leads us back to the home structure. And I find that to be so, being in all the different careers that I have been in thus far. Now, within the domestic violence unit, we are actually in the infancy stage of building this unit. This unit came about July 5th when the incoming commissioner, Mr. Clayton Fernando, in his own wisdom, he decided, hey, we need a domestic violence unit. Let me tell you why it is so important to have one. Because victims of various gender, victims from all walks of life need to know that they can come to a place where it is safe, that they are able to report their matters to someone who cares, first of all, who is going to take them in their matters in very high esteem and very best interest to ensure that the victim receives justice for their cases. And most importantly, that they know at the end of the day, they are going to receive the help. Now, what's so unique about this area is that it's not only solely based on police officers. We are actually looking at the community as a whole. So we're looking at the churches. We're looking at all sectors of the churches, whether it be Seventh-day Adventist, whether it be Baptist, Catholic, Anglican, non-denominational. We're looking at all the churches, whether it's East, West, North, and South, to come together with the police. And we're all going to march with one voice, one sound. Not only the churches, but as well as the NGO groups. You have all of the organizations within the community. You have not only that, the ministries, like the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Social Services. You have different civic organizations. We're going to actually pull everyone under one umbrella. And wherever that victim needs help, they are going to receive help. Now, that is different from the criminal aspect of it, because when it comes to the criminal aspect of investigating the matter, that will be top priority. That will be top priority to ensure that the victim receives justice. Whether you are male or female, it doesn't matter, you're black, white, it doesn't matter of your gender. Your matter is going to be looked at in fairness across the board. And one of the other main reason why this area came about by the commissioner is to ensure that victims are not sent to various stations or different police stations. Say, for example, if an incident occurred in the East, they, instead of them going to that police station in the East, they can come right to the domestic area and say, hey, I have a matter to report, where they will be received with love, with admiration, and they are going to be listened to in every detail. So they are not going to feel ostracized. They're not going to feel neglected in any which way. And their matters are going to be taken care of to the fullest extent. And why is this so important? Because the cry is in society that when a victim dies, you see that prior at times to their death, they may sometimes report the matters as well as they may not report the matters. I've spoken with a lot of victims, or females in particular, reference to domestic disputes. And they would always say, you know what, they don't want police action. And the reason why they don't want police action is for a lot of reasons. But one in particular, where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? Who is going to take me in? Who is going to take care of my children? It's only me and my children. Who is going to take care of us? The man is the breadwinner of the house. Now, what is going to happen to me? What is going to happen to the kids? So that is one of the main thing on most, the main thing on most victims' mind is the where after the fact. And unfortunately, you find that a lot of cases are not reported to the police. And it's not reported to the police because of their status of who they are. I'm talking about their relationship status, or they may feel ashamed, or they may not want their business to go out there in society, or they may not want people to know that they are being abused because they live in this world, or they have this picture perfect world that all is well with them. You find that a lot of cases are in the churches as well. You find that a lot of cases are in the churches. But you would find also a lot of Christians, and I don't want to use Christians, but I'm going to use it. But you find out like a lot of religion people, they may feel hesitant to also report matters of domestic abuse. So you looking at all sectors of society where persons may feel reluctant to speak out because of even they're afraid. They are fearful of retaliation, that the perpetrator may come back and harm them, and not only harm them, but their children. I just recently had a case, at least actually I would say about maybe a year or two ago, where this lady, she was in a relationship with this young man. And she was in a relationship with him. She said that it solely was because of him being a provider. And not that she loved the man, but he was a provider. So at that time, she had a 15-year-old daughter. And the man told her, in order for me to continue taking care of you, taking care of your bills, taking care of your children, you have to give me your daughter. And if any mother out there is listening to me, any mother there who's listening to me, and especially if you know the power of prayer and having substance in your life, that would be a no-no. But this particular woman, she decided to do that. She decided to do that. And it severely affected that child's life, that even to this day, that child is receiving counseling because of it. And the mother has since turned a blind eye, or she tried, but the investigation revealed otherwise. She tried to turn a blind eye as if that never happened. So in other words, she was taken up for the man. We've seen many cases like that right here in this little Bahama land. And you find many cases where the women, of course, have children, and that's why the Ministry of Education is so important, because these same children who are being traumatized, who are being abused, who are seeing abuse constantly, and it's becoming a norm in their life. It's becoming a norm because now they feel as if being abused or being a part of an abusive relationship is the right thing to do. So they become trained in their mind from childhood, coming up in life, and they feel as if that being abused is what's supposed to happen to hold a man. And that's why the Ministry of Education is so important, especially when it comes to this domestic violence unit, because those same children now has to return to school. They're in school, in the class environment, in the school environment with other kids, and now their mindset is totally, I call it warped. That's what I call it. It's totally warped because of the norm that they adapted in their environment. So now it becomes normal to them and they don't know anything else. So now the Ministry of Education, how they are going to work with the police force. This is where training is going to come in place. About 5 years ago, I came about with this strategy, School Summer 242, where we went into the school, all the schools in the Bahamas, from primary straight up to senior high, public, private, junior, primary school, and secondary school. And we went into the majority. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go into all of them, but we went into the majority of the school, and we provided training. We provided programs. We provided programs on certain topics. And one of them in particular was domestic violence, conflict resolution, loving yourself, knowing who you are, transformation, and becoming the best you. And we taught, and that's only a fragment of the topics that we spoke about. And these sessions are going to come back again into the new school year, where it's going to be introduced again, because we have to start at the lower level to train our children to let them know that, hey, domestic violence is wrong, or being assaulted is wrong, abuse is wrong. They must know the do's and the don'ts. They have to know what it is. They have to know what the definition is, because if they don't, and because they're seeing it at home, they think that's what's supposed to happen. And then they become adults and they go right in, they groom themselves, and then they end up having children, and their children does the same thing. And then you have these adults who are being abused. They go into their work environment, and because maybe no one in the work environment see or recognize that they are being abused, because in particular, we as women, we put on a mask. We know how to pretend well, I must say. We know how to put on that makeup and make everything go away within 8 hours, or how many long the time frame we are to work. And then when we leave that work environment, we go back into that same toxic environment, unfortunately. So we have a lot of structures. We have a lot of plans that we have in place, even though the unit is extremely new. My direct supervisor is Assistant Commissioner Deloise Ferguson. She's my direct supervisor, and we are working tirelessly to build this unit. And why we're so happy is that because of our mandate that we received from the commissioner, we are able to pool in with other organizations to actually make this not only a structured area, but an area that will stand the test of time, regardless of, even if I'm no longer in the police force, that whoever comes behind me, in the succession planning, whoever comes behind me, they can build on it and they can become better. And when we look at society, the same domestic violence, what has been plaguing not only our society, but the world in general, once we can combat that properly with all the stakeholders on board, we can most definitely do our part in ensuring that the caseload in terms of domestic matters minimize extremely, not only in this year, but in future to come, Kendra. So we have so much things that we have to do. We have so much things that we will do. And there's so much things that we have on our plate to do. And that's why I intrigue everyone who's listening out there. Everyone who's listening out there, please do your part. And even if you feel as if you can contribute in any which way, even to this unit, to the domestic violence unit at police headquarters, let me know. You could come and give me a call, or even you could either call me, or you even could come here and give me a courtesy visit. My door is always open. Always open. And the link, what the saying is, Kendra, the link is as strong as the weakest link.
Yes.
And it's true.
Yes.
And we all have to work in unison. All have to work in unison at the end of the day.
Thank you so much,
that's how I
Inspector. There was so much that you said in that opening presentation that you gave, and I'm going to give Ms. Moore the opportunity to come in. But I just want to say, one of the things that stood out to me in what you said was when you talked about how a lot of cases come out of the church. And yet, when it comes to a whole lot of domestic violence issues, the church is largely silent when it comes to it, in terms of, pastors, whether they're integrating it into their sermons, bringing in persons to speak, whether it's on a Bible study or whatever have you, in addressing these issues. So it will be interesting to see how we will be able to, in terms of as a community, see a change in the church, and that being able to be a catalyst in terms of to filter throughout our society. And so I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer that when we come back, but I want to take this opportunity now, and I want to invite Ms. Podesta Moore to share. I know earlier this year, I was a part of a training that she held at the Attorney General's office. And so she is also one of those NGOs that is continuing the work in terms of gender equality, women's rights, empowering women, because it's definitely needed. And I know oftentimes when people think or they hear about women's empowerment, they think that like the rise of women is the fall of man. It's women trying to come and take over, and that isn't what it is. If you listen to just any of the stats that the inspector just gave, you can see why it's necessary for women to be empowered, just for the betterment in terms of the children that are attached to women, and in preventing certain things that happen. And so at this time, Ms. Moore, we want to invite you to share in terms of what you've been doing in terms of your organization, and just any matters that you want to address as it relates to women's empowerment in the country.
Thank you, Kendra, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I want to start with an opening quote. It says, empowering women is essential, because a lot of times we want to know why is empowering women and girls so important? So empowering women is essential to the health and social development of families, communities, and countries. When women are living safe, fulfilled, and productive lives, they can reach their full potential, contributing their skills to the workforce, and can raise happier and healthier children. And I think that key is very important. That's why I wanted to read that. There's no threat for having women empowered. When women are empowered, our communities are stronger, our families are stronger. The foundation, because now we have something to work with. Taking my family for an example, being an empowered woman in our family helps to advance our family in a positive way. My husband gets the support that he needs. Our children are now stronger children and more empowered. They know the ins and outs of right and wrong, and they have the example in the home where they see a strong woman working along with her husband to make sure that our family are maintained. So it is very important in the work that I do, and I have two organizations. Again, Podesta Moore. I run Bahamas Urban Youth Development Center. I started that organization in 2012. And the focus of that organization was working with girls and women. And I thought it was important that we work with this group of this population. People ask, why not men? We have worked with men, but I feel like if women are empowered, if women are given the tools to be able to make responsible decisions, if they're able to navigate through some of the challenges that women and girls face, that they are able to now make a better impact in their communities. So the organization started focusing on going into the schools, working with young girls, and particularly middle school. And Kendra talked about some of the things that she's seen, and it's the truth. I've come across young girls as young as 13 who are, they're younger also, but I'm talking about the fact that they're on the streets, engaged in transactional sex and sex work, selling their bodies as a means to survive. And sometimes they are forced into the situation because of their parents. So getting back to the family dynamics is very important. And we have a responsibility as NGOs, as churches, as community groups and leaders to ensure that the structure of the family is stronger. I spoke to my board the other day, and I said, we have to come out of our offices and go into the communities. We have to knock on go door to door, and talk to families about the programs that we have. What programs do we have in these communities that can help these parents to help to bring up their children? Because we have young parents who got pregnant at the age of 13, 20 years later, they're 30, 28, very, very young, 26, 27, because that vicious cycle of being a teen parent and now their daughters and now, doing the same thing. And they don't really have the foundation and the support of how to really train adults because they were a child themselves. So we have now the responsibility to go into these communities, even with the sex workers and the women that I've been working, we have to now take it from a holistic approach. I now have to bring those children in from those homes and say, hey, we have programs to help your children so that cycle does not repeat itself. So we're now starting to take a different approach. We started that from 2012. We're now expanding into doing more trainings, even going into the workforce, where we're going to be talking about gender-based violence. Violence in our community has increased tremendously, and the impact that it's having on our girls is a very, very negative, and it's now passing on to various generations. We started Women United, where we talked about ensuring that policies and the gender-based violence bills are passed. That bill is passed because now that has some policies that's now going to help the families. When they come into the police station, coming to see Kendra, Kendra needs to have other services to be able to offer to those women. She needs to be able to offer psychosocial support, counseling, shelters. I've gotten calls. Kendra and I work together. I'm talking about Sergeant Inspector Kendra work together, where I've gotten calls now where she even trying to find housing. So the resources are limited. If the police department and social services are calling us and saying, I have somebody who needs to be housed for, a night or a couple nights, that it's really challenged. So we have to all come together to church. And I'm so happy to hear her talk about involving the churches. If the churches can get involved in what's happening with empowering our women and girls and making sure that they are at the forefront of educating and training and talking to women, we can't shy the conversation. We have to be straight up and let them know, because it's real. People are coming into churches and they're hurting. They're putting on the mask, like she said, the makeup, and they're hiding behind them, but they have issues that they have to deal with once they leave church. So if the church can now talk about, ladies, I know that there are issues that's happening. What can we as a church do? And we have these prevention. We have to now just stop talking about awareness. Awareness is out there. People know what's happening. What are we going to do to prevent? So I'm just excited to be a part of this conversation today. And we have to continue the conversation, continue doing our part. I know, Ms. Bo Kendra, that you're going to be asking us some questions to see how we can really deep dive into some of the ways that we can prevent this from happening further, and what we can do as NGOs and as a society to continue those conversations. So I'm going to stop now and just go with the questions.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Podesta. So it's such a small world, because I had no idea that you and Inspector Kendra actually were already working together on certain issues. So that is really awesome to see. I had the opportunity. There were two things that took place on the weekend. The Seventh-day Adventists held a march, a end violence march. They held and it ended. I ran out to be able to observe. Thurston is on, and she was actually speaking at that march. She was sharing a bit of her testimony in terms of there. And then they also had another lady who was sharing, who is US based, and she was also sharing on being married to someone in law enforcement and what it was like in terms of going through, in terms of the challenges. So one of the questions I'd like to ask is, and I would like to open it up in terms of to either one of our guests, but also Ms. Thurston, for someone who has walked through it and come through on the other side. When someone is in a domestic violence situation, and we know that finances is definitely a challenge, where the ability to themselves or the ability to take care of their children, what advice would you give to any woman who's listening in, or any child who's listening in who's also experiencing that? what advice would you give to those persons in terms of getting out of it?
Who's that for, Ms. Thurston?
That is for any one of our guests. That's for either you, Podesta, or Inspector Wallace, or Ms. Thurston as someone who's come out of it on the other side. In terms of what advice would you give? Because we know that it's hard, it's difficult. You know, if you watch any movies that's addressing it, you see that cycle where women leave and they come back and leave and come back, or they try to leave and they're not able to. And, you know, we also heard about how some women have died in terms of in this situation. So as organizations, as institutions that are dealing with these persons and these cases, recognizing the real life issues that people do face, what advice would you give to women or to girls who are experiencing these issues in terms of getting out of it?
Well, I'll start. And I know in coming across women and having these very sessions, I can tell you about a specific case where I know this woman has been going through challenges. And a lot of times when we talk about abuse, we're not just thinking about physical abuse. There's financial abuse. There's all kinds of different, you know, psychological, emotional.
Yes.
And so what I said to her, I said, when you are given, even if it's $50, $100, or whatever funds that you have to start your own savings plan. Even with the sex workers who came in, I would give them a stipend of $30. Because a lot of them face sexual abuse, even in the work that we do. And my job is not to challenge them and say, get out of it, but it's to help to show them the consequences of their action. And if they want a pathway out, you have to put together a plan in place. So I remember specifically when I had a workshop, these women came in and I gave them a $30 stipend. I said, now out of that $30, you save 20%. Put aside 20% and continue to save. And one of the girls said, Ms. Moore, it's only $30. What $30 going to do? So what I reminded them is that you walked in here today without $30. So now you have $30, so walk out here as if you have 24. And every time you have an opportunity to save, you save. So I said even to that woman who was going through some challenges at home, when you have the grocery money, when you have things to pay the bills, you put aside, so if you have $100 for the grocery, take $10. Take $10 and you save that. And it's going to build, and just keep building up a savings, putting aside as a pathway to get out, because you know the struggle. You know what's happening, but you have to intentionally be able to put aside savings and put aside things that even with if you're employed, we have some who are employed. Save. We don't know about saving. We take our money and we go ahead and buy things that we don't even need. So if you really are serious about getting out, the first thing, because you can't really pick up the phone. I have now a situation with a young woman who's being challenged, and I have to talk to Sergeant Wallace about that, because she's herself is married to a police officer, similar to the situation where the young lady talked about. She's trying to find a pathway out and need finances. So NGOs can only do so much, the government can only do so much, but we have to start saving and putting ourselves into an economic position where even when we start in a relationship, that we have something set aside to save so that we can make our way out. So that's my that would be my challenge to everyone, to start saving. Always have something set aside as an emergency fund. So if something happens, that you have a way out, at least a starting point, that you can at least say, I have $500. I still need another $700, but I have something towards it. I know the others can shed more in terms of having a friend set aside that you can call on, having a pathway plan. So we'll hear from them.
Okay. Inspector Williams, can you tell us from your experience, what would you say are some of the things that women can do if they find themselves in this situation? Like, what are some of those things? And I'm looking at it in terms of twofold. What are some of the things that they can do to build themselves to the point of leaving? And what are some of the things they can do when they're at that point and they're like, I have to get out here now? Like, what are some of the steps that they need to take?
Thank you, Kendra, for that question. Most of the clients that I come into contact with, most of them are at rock bottom. They are at their wits' end. where they don't have any money. They are unemployed. They don't know anything about a savings account. They solely depended on the man, solely. The last time some of them worked was maybe you could say 10 years ago. And their sole focus was on the children, ensuring that the food was good, making sure that their husband was good or their boyfriend, because some of them are not even married. But because they became so dependent on the man and they forgot about their independency, that they now only see the man as their God. So when they look at themselves now, I have to start at a place in terms of my counseling or assisting them. I have to refocus them back on them because their focus have already been taken off of them for years. So you find that these ladies are already broken. And when I say broken, to a point that when they look in the mirror, they don't know who they are. They have lost all sense of hope or redirection. They don't know where to even start. The only thing that I can say to them, let's go back to you, your first love. Let's go back to the first love. And at times they ask the question, who is that? First of all, you're looking at spiritual, which is God. Second of all, you're looking at yourself in the mirror. And then they trickle down and they look at their children. And I asked them a question. If you leave this earth, if you remain in this situation and you die in it, who will take care of your children? Who will take care of your children? Who? For most part, all of them don't have nobody. Absolutely nobody. You can give them all the money. You can give them all the assistance. You could tell them go here and there. You could give them all the steps to take. But if they already broken, they now have to be fixed in a way, and it goes back to their mind, their mentality, because it's now formed in a way that the perpetrator has already broken them down to a point that they don't know who they are. Once that conversation is already had, then all of the other question comes out. What about family? What about friends? I asked them a series of questions. All of those questions are no. I don't have nobody. I don't have nobody. I had friends one time ago, but I don't have anybody. And right now they are in a need of desperation. Right now, sitting before me, a need of desperation. I pick up the phone and the first person I call, you have social services hotline who are mandated to help all victims. Once I communicate with social services and I say, hey, I have a case. What is the case? What's the need? They have 3 kids. They need a housing. It's a housing situation because all of that has to be assessed. Once that is assessed, they have a housing situation. They don't have any food. Then you're looking at housing. Then you're looking at providing food, which is the coupons that they provide. All of that. How long would they need housing for? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? They can get up to 4 weeks now. 4 weeks. But watch this, Kendra. Watch this, Podesta. Podesta, you know my plight. And always trying to find victims somewhere to live. And always trying to get them their food stamps and all of these things. And even sometimes have to use my personal funding to ensure that their children are fed. But we only can do so much, regardless of the advice we give them. We can give them all the advice on how to build their life back up and how to go to social services. They'll provide the assistance. Go to Podesta. She has a space that she will provide a room. We can give all that advice and people give it. But at the end of the day, Kendra, Levita, Podesta, it still falls back on that victim. It falls back on the victim. Because there's a possibility that the victim may return back into that cycle. Because studies have shown it takes up to almost 10 times, and that's if they make it to the 10th time, for a victim to leave. They leave and they return. They leave and they return. They leave again and they return. And when they return the last time, maybe the last blow will make them leave for good. For good. The question is an excellent question, but the question is so vast because once you meet a victim who is at their breaking point, they come into you broken, no money, sometimes no shoes, barely no clothes. And thank God for all of the organizations out there who are able to assist my organization in giving clothes. I tend to, clothes that I accumulate, I tend to give that away. So whatever the need is right in front of me, I try to assist the female. And at the same time, I'm counseling them at the same time on how to better themselves. But the main factor, and I can tell you, and I hope all the women in the Bahamas is listening to me today. For most victims, they look at their children. They sacrifice their own self. They sacrifice their own self. And they will remain in that situation sometimes until death. Because they say, I have to look at my children. My children have to be fed. It's my children. But suppose that situation wipe your life out. Then who is going to take care of your children? Kendra, I hope I answered the question because I've
Yes,
seen
you
so
did,
many
because-
aspects of these cases. I'm sorry, Kendra. I've seen so many of these cases, but the majority I see is when they are at their broken point of almost in their mind of no return.
And that's why women empowerment is so important, Kendra. We talk about even saving that small amount. Have something as a backup because you don't know when things can switch up and change.
Yes.
So we have to make sure that women are empowered and put aside for their whatever small
Yes.
amount of savings for their future.
Okay, thank you, ladies. So I see Levita Thurston will chime in. Levita, share with us as someone who's walked through it. How did you get out?
Good evening, all. I got out by, first of all, being tired. You saw my book cover that was up earlier. The picture on the left, that's the ugly, ugly one. Let me put it back up. That picture was when I was nothing, when I was nobody, when I was a rape bag, because as I was raped at the age of 15, then raped multiple times by my kids' fathers. And anytime they beat me, they saw that to say sorry, they had to rape me. And they were adding so much more pain and hurt to my young life. I did not know what love was about. I didn't feel love. I didn't feel wanted. And so all of this combined with hopelessness, combined with brokenness, and then the last part of it, enough. Enough was finally enough. After going back several times, Ms. Wim say, you go back about 10 times. For me, I believe it was more than that because I was being beaten so much. The beating was like every other week, at least once a month. You know, if I asked a question, I would get beat for that stump, purple eye. And so I got tired. What am I doing for me to be getting beat like this? What am I doing for me to be getting raped like this? I don't deserve this. I grew up in church. I was baptized at the age of 13. I learned all my memory verses. Glad to go to Sunday school. Did what my mother told me to do. Loved my parents. Obeyed them. So why am I getting treated like this? This is enough. And so I had to do something about it. I did not think about where I was going. I did not think about how I was going to get there. I did not think about I was not working at the time. I did not think about I didn't have 1 penny in my pocket. I did not think about nothing. I already had no hope. I already was afraid. So what else do I have to lose? So I say, you know what? That's it. I took all my stuff, my children, and I dragged them across the road. And a man stopped, an old man stopped. And he said, child, where you going with these children and these bunch of stuff? He said, hop in. Put my stuff on a man truck. I got my kids. And I said, carry me on East Street to my mommy. My mother was living in a 1-bedroom. And I reached there with my kids and started to cry. And I say, mommy, I'm tired. I just need to be here with my kids until I catch myself. And my mother welcomed me with open arms. And we slept, all of us slept in that one room with my mommy and her then fiance, God rest his soul. Thank God he was not a bad person. He allowed us to be there, invaded his privacy and my mother's privacy. But we made it through. Even after that, my kid's father tried to use the children against me. He would come and get them, keep them for days, tell me he can't get them back to me and he got to go to work and I better come for them. And when I go for the children, he'll tell me he's not home. He leave them there, go get them. When I go for the kids, he's right there. Put them on his drum whilst he raped me in there. One time, I refused to let him rape me again. And he hit me with a Heineken bottle in my head. I have a scar about 2 inches. Up to this day, that scar is still there as a reminder that you made it through, Lavita, only through Christ that strengthened me to press on. And he slapped me, hit me to the ground in the bathroom. I got some gashes on my arm, the blood draining. And you know what he says to me? See what you cause. And so I would say to that person that is in that abusive relationship, you can get out. Get out whilst getting out is good. Get out before it ends with your life and leave your children homeless. I got out. That's why I am so obedient in sharing my story wherever the Lord strengthens me to go. Whomever asks me to come and speak, can you share your story? I do not think or hesitate. I try to move my calendar around so I can be flexible whenever God sends me to talk to his people. Because when people hear your story, people connect. Something in your story they connect with. And you'll hear them calling you. I need to talk to you. Or they hear about my book. I need to read your book. Then they call back to say, I leave him, you know. Can you help me not to go back? I had a case where the lady, you know, she was so fearful of this man, the things she talked about. Up to this day, I stays in connection with her, and she did not go back. We have to stand on the fire line with these people. We have to encourage them. If they go back, don't bash them. Try to understand. Help them not to go back. Help them to understand if you go back, it could be your life. I almost I
So
was
Levita,
threatened,
I want to
but God is
ask you a
good.
question, Levita, because we're talking. Thank you so much for what you shared. But what I want to get from you before we have to end, when you look at your life, what would you say? Because I know that you spoke about having multiple degrees. I heard as you were sharing a part of your testimony yesterday, and
Yes,
now
ma'am.
you're working in terms of empowering other women. What would you say? What were the things that you did that allowed you to be empowered so that you didn't go back? Whether it was with your child's father or with someone else that came along, what would you leave for someone listening in to say, this is what I did so that I didn't go back? How did I empower myself?
I stayed busy. I enrolled myself in things at the church. I went back to church. I started to study God's word even more. And I got more involved in things like academically, spiritually. I stayed busy, so I would think about what happened yesterday. I would not think about the beating. Now, there were times that my mind run what I did. What did I do to deserve that last week or last month or last time? But what I would have been doing at that moment would have strengthened me because I always try to stay focused on God and read His Word and do praise and worship. So a lot of praise and worship kept me going also. Now, I had a breaking point in my life where things was going good, and then I had a moment where I relapsed. When I say relapse, that's a term like when you go back. I started to use drugs. Then I started to drink and became an alcoholic, trying to cope. And so I kept begging God. I kept asking God, help me. Father God, are you seeing me? And it is in God's timing that you know what? I will do this because you keep asking, because you persist. And so I did not give up. I did not allow myself to give up. I did not allow what my abusers say to me when I was leaving to take hold on me. I did not allow the obstacles of life to tear me down. I got up and I fought back. Even when my daughter was murdered, you know, a lot of persons thought I would have been sick. I would have been in the hospital. Yes, it hurt. And I miss my daughter. I still miss her. I still have my moments where I cry. But yes, I thank God for the 21 years.
Levita, Levita.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Dave Williams here. Yeah, I have to take this off live off the radio. We could continue on Zoom, but I have to take it off the radio. The time is gone. And so those of you listening live on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, also who are joining us on Facebook on the YouTube channel, we're just thanking you for such a wonderful Sunday afternoon for joining us on this program, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. My co-host Jackie, who is not here, attending a family funeral. And so I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Thank our guests, Inspector Kendra Williams, Protester Moore, and those of you who are listening by radio or Cable TV 974. If you wish to join in the conversation, you can join us by Facebook or by YouTube, or you can join us on Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. I wish to thank my partner, Kendra Bohu Sarin, for myself and Jackie. On this program, we hear every Sunday, 4 to 5 on Global 99.5 on this program, Transforming Lives. I end the program the way I always end by reminding you that there's nothing more important than having a personal relationship with Christ. Not a church, not a denomination, but I'm talking about your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Dave Williams on behalf of Jackie Gardner, Transforming Lives, Global 99.5, every Sunday, 4 to 5. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Dave. And so what I want to do is thank you so much, Levita, for what you shared. And I just want to get some thoughts, closing thoughts, and then we want to open it up because I saw someone had their hand raised. And so, Podesta, what I'd like to ask you is when you look at your organization, when you look at the work that you're doing, when you look at where we're at in our country today, what closing thoughts would you like to leave with our audience as relates to the work we need to do, persons who may be listening who may need help, how they can contact you, and just any final thoughts that you would like to give in regards to women empowerment?
Well, thank you for that. So with the work that we are doing, my encouragement is that we all have to get involved. This is a work that's going to take communities coming together. When we see something, we have to be our brothers and sisters keepers. We have to get back to the old school where it takes a village. So there's opportunities that we can do with getting involved with NGOs, volunteering. I'm sorry. I'm in a session right now. You can come upstairs. Third door. Okay, I apologize. Somebody's coming up, picking up some school supplies. And that's what we have to do. We have to continue helping our neighbors, helping our communities. When families are in need, we have to go to battle for them because they don't have the strength sometimes to do it for themselves. And so that's what we do as an organization. We're always looking for volunteers. We're getting ready to start some after-school programs. So if any of you want to get involved in terms of helping to mentor and be there for those mothers. I heard the mother the other day had just lost her son with 10 children unemployed. We have to find some way how we can assist them. I'm trying to find that mother now to see how we can help her get employed. They need skills, they need resumes. So it takes all of us coming together, whatever small amount that we can do. If you can't be in the forefront, you might have a donation that you can send in to help these parents. Like I said, somebody's calling for school supplies. We can do our part, and that's my encouragement. When you see somebody's hurting, find out what can I do to assist. Call us, call our organization. I'll give you our office number. It's 603-0330, and ask us. Even if we don't have the resources, we might be able to refer them and find out how they can get the help. My cell phone number is 816-0027. Go to our Facebook page. We have Women United Facebook page. We have Bahamas Urban Youth Development Center. Call us, get the help, refer them, find out what you can do to assist. If you see somebody's hurting, you know somebody's being abused, call us. We can connect them to get the help. You have Inspector Wallace right there. Call. Don't just sit back and ignore it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Wallace Williams, can you leave us with what you would say your final thoughts as relates to the work that your office and the new division that you now are in charge of are doing? What would you say now in terms of what you want to leave as a charge? You mentioned earlier in terms of the churches and persons coming together to assist with the work that this unit is now charged with. So what final thoughts or comments you'd like to leave with the audience today?
Okay, thank you, Kendra. As I had mentioned earlier, this unit is a very new unit, but we are on the go. We're getting out there in the community to ensure that the community knows about us. So you're going to see a lot of information coming from the Domestic Violence Task Force unit at the police headquarters. I'm going to leave my cell number as well, which is 477-4579. 477-4579. My office number is 326-0476. 326-0476. We also provide counseling. We provide referrals for counseling. If you need assistance in terms of how do you go about getting protection order? What's the steps for that? I can assist you with that. If you need advice on how to gain assistance for not only for you, but your children, I can also assist you with that. If you need a little bit of housing or food assistance or rental assistance, come and see me. I can also assist you with that. I know exactly all the stakeholders who I can refer you to. If you need anything pertaining to just getting you back on your feet, give me a call, give me a call, give me a call. Like I had mentioned, my organization it's all love organization. It's geared towards building females, children and adults, females as well. We provide counseling, we provide mentorship. We also adopted government high school, but 2 years ago. So we provide counseling to at-risk kids at government high school. We're gonna expand it some more to the other school. So you're gonna hear about this unit coming very soon. We're putting on a March for October for domestic violence, which is in October, right, Kendra? I think it's October. We're putting on a segment in October. You're gonna see that very soon in Facebook and all the social medias. So you're gonna see exactly what this office entails. But if you need any assistance in terms of if something is happening in your home and you don't know what it is, and you just need advice, you just need any advice on anything in terms of whether it be legal or whether it be your personal health, anything you need, just give me a call. And if I cannot help you, I know who I can refer you to provide some assistance to you.
Here today, and for those who may know someone, if you yourself are being abused in an abusive relationship, at your ends meet, feeling hopeless, there was a lot of information shared today that is able to be of assistance to you. And then also, if you, for those who are just on, you are able to take this information so that when you encounter people who may be going through something, you can pass this information on. And this is able to help and be a blessing to others. And so I just want to give those numbers again for those of you who are listening in. So for Inspector Wallace Wims, her cell is 477-4579. And I want to encourage, even for those churches who are on, one of these to find churches who will connect and partner with them, that when they need to meet with the state, that there are churches who are saying we will offer our able to meet with these individuals. And so we want maybe pastors, leaders connected to churches to please reach out to her unit. So again, her cell number is 477-4579, and the office number is 326-0476. For those of you who want to assist in giving back, in contributing, we've heard of the challenges that many of these women and their children are facing. And if you want to assist Women's United, Moore, as well as the youth organization that she has, the office number is 603-0330. And so these are ways in which I remind all of those who are listening in is, one, we have to be, when people are going through, I feel like we've come to a place as a society many times where we're like, okay, that's somebody else's business. So child, I ain't getting in that, because you don't want to get into any problems, any conflict that it may bring to you. But we are commanded to be a people of love. And so I would say, let your love be greater than your fear. Secondly, for any woman who is going through, or any young person who is living in these situations, please reach out for help to the numbers and the information that has been provided for you, because there are ways and means that you could receive assistance. And so you don't have to just continue going through what you're going through alone. And to women, find ways, no matter how small, to empower yourself, so that you can better be able to take care of yourself, but you also can better take care of your children. And before I turn it back over to Mr. Williams, I just want to remind the listening audience who is in, this is back to school. And I just want to mention that late registration is still taking place for New Providence Classical School. It is located Blake Road, in the section where Westminster College was. So New Providence Classical School is now there. They provide a classical education. Class sizes are 7 to 10 students per class. They're all classroom setting for your children. And so you can reach out to the school. The phone number is 394-7393, or 802-0323, and that's New Providence Classical School that is located on Blake Road. So I want to turn it over to now Mr. David Williams, and then we'll open it up. If there is anyone who has a question or comment, you can feel free at this time. I also noticed Levita Thurston, she gave her number, and so I want to mention that as well, 428-6803. So of encouragement or for any assistance that she may also render. Her number is 428-6803. Dave, you can go ahead.
I think I saw Sonia had a hand up, because I wanted them to, anybody else wanted to share, give any comments before we officially sign off. Anybody else? I saw Sonia had a hand up early. I don't know if she still is on, but anybody else wanted to make a comment before we sign off? Okay, I guess Sonia is not on. I just want to mention to those of you still on and or those who will be watching it later on Facebook, YouTube, there's a march, International Men's Day, sponsoring the march. This coming 24th of September, it begins at Christie Park and it ends at Christie Park. And so already we have gotten commitment from the police for security. We have gotten commitment from the Defense Force. We'll be in contact with the prison and a number of different men's organizations under the team, the International Men's Day team, talking about men leading by example, and enough is enough. And so we're looking to gather more information, get as much more men involved in this march, leading from Christie Park and it's ending back at Christie Park. We will soon launch a press conference and you'll hear more information up next week on the program and going forward. Also, the Chaplaincy Conference of the prison is having a conference coming up October 6th to 8th. Persons have always mentioned to me that they were interested in prison ministries. How do they get training? And also, how do they get information that they can use in strengthening their prison ministries? And so that's October 6th to 8th. There's a conference coming up under the chaplaincy department. You'll hear more of that also beginning next week. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our guest, Inspector Kendra Wallace, Podesta Moore. Thank my co-host, Kendra Bowe, and all of you for taking the opportunity to listen, to tune in on the program, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5 every Sunday, 4 to 5. Next week, Siobhan Hollis will be on talking about the child protection law and some training in that area. And so if you have any desire for any training in that area, dealing with children and child protection law, you can join us next week, Sunday, 4 to 5. Hopefully, my co-host Jackie will be back. Dave Williams, on behalf of Jackie Gardner, Transforming Lives, Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, Facebook, YouTube, also on Zoom. Encouraging each and every one of you to have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. I'm at Mason's Edition now. They're having an event for the children. So if there's some young children out there and you wish to be a part of it, they're doing a giveaway at the park on Mason's Edition. That's where I'm broadcasting live. Thank you very much, Kendra. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.